Welcome, everyone. My name is Grant Michaels. I'm the president of the Women's Civic League of Glendale. Welcome to our candidate forum. During this time, we're going to have everyone remain with their cameras off, as well as be muted. I am going to start to move the candidates into the waiting room, and we'll have Joylene begin and give an introduction of the Women's Civic League.
Hello, everybody. I'll say that I first came in direct contact with the Women's Civic League when I attended one of my first candidate forums in 2005. But I just wanted today to share our purpose with you. The organization has been around since 1946 and remains one of the, I would say, few organizations locally that does not take positions nor endorse. So we are here to inform our members and anybody who wants to listen about our community, and we're happy to continue our tradition of offering candidate forums in those years when we have our local elections. I'll share the purpose of the League as it was drawn up in 1946. The purpose shall be the study and consideration of civic, economic, and legislative questions, and the advancement of civic affairs in the community, state, and nation. The League is non-political, therefore no candidate shall be endorsed and no campaign shall be sponsored. The League is not a fundraising organization. And our dues are only $20 a year, so join us. We hope at some point to go back to lunches on occasion, and Grant will tell you more about that, I think, as we close. But I look forward to this forum. And thanks all of you for being here.
Thank you, Joylene. Mr. Najarian, you're on an iPad, and I don't seem to be able to find or confirm your name. Would you be able to rename yourself, or I'm going to ask the iPads to unmute themselves.
I have a graphic behind me which has my name on it, Grant, which may solve that problem.
Welcome to this experiment of running a forum on Zoom. So, thank you everyone for joining us. This meeting is being recorded. I am going to bring in Anita Canones Gabrielian.
Hello, I'm here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So you have 10 minutes and you can please begin with your opening statement.
Thank you very much, Women's Civic League, for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Anita Quiñones Gabrielian, and I want to be your next Glendale City Councilwoman. I'm an immigrant from Nicaragua who married an immigrant from Armenia. I have lived the immigration struggle and understand it very well. I am living the American dream now and will always be grateful for the opportunities I've had. I'm surrounded by neighbors who are very successful. I also have neighbors who are on the hard road to realizing their dreams. My late husband and I chose Glendale to make it our home. And here is where we were blessed and raised three amazing daughters. Like most parents, once you have a child, almost everything is about the children. You set a good example, you work hard, you buy the right foods, you want the best education for them, a safe place to call home. You spend your weekends at AYSO or Little League. You want parks in your neighborhood, safe streets, clean air and water. I want the same things you do. I'm blessed to have had a great education. From USC, I have a degree in finance and accounting and an MBA from Cal Poly. I've had a long and distinguished career with a Fortune 500 company. And now I'm a small business owner and have learned firsthand to appreciate the struggles of small businesses. I love my city and have been actively volunteering here for over 30 years. Because I believe that education is the cornerstone of success, this one of the honors of my lifetime to have served on the Glendale Community College Board of Trustees for 15 years, 3 times as president. I am now a city commissioner, and I'm excited and hopeful to apply my experience, my abilities, and my passion to ensure that Glendale continues to be a premier and environmentally sustainable city for many generations to come and build their dream. My top priorities are to fully fund public safety, to ensure the efficient delivery of city services, to protect and enhance the quality of life in all our residential neighborhoods, to advance sustainability for us and future generations and meet 100% environmental and green energy sources by 2035, and to promote transparency and accountability in government. Thank you.
Thank you. The first question, communities are under a great deal of pressure to plan for increased housing needs while maintaining their quality of life. The state regional housing needs assessment allocates housing needs for each community. Specifically, what would you propose the city do to meet its fair share of the regional housing needs?
Yes, you know, we have been given, and I believe that we have over 11,000 more housing units to provide over the next 8 years. That is what they call the RENA number, and what the Southern California Association of Governments says that the city of Glendale must provide. I have to say that we need a balanced approach to this, because we need to protect our neighborhoods from the encroaching state legislation like SB 9 and SB 10, and make sure that we continue to have quiet, parkable, walkable, safe streets and single family neighborhoods against SB 9, SB 10, etc. So we have to monitor that and react with strong ordinances so that we can maintain the quality of life in our single family neighborhoods. At the same time, we must come up with a way to grow these, to develop 11,000 units. And I believe we can do that by adaptive development. We have some empty or very underutilized office buildings that we can adapt to housing. We have a Sears building there with huge parking availability that we can convert to housing units. We might even think about building underground parking and parks on top of it, and a multi-story structure for housing. So I believe that what we have to do also is make sure that when new developments come, that we enforce inclusive requirements for affordable housing to all development. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
You have about 4.5 minutes left. The next question is, what action should City Council take to direct GWP to take in order to increase clean energy production at our Grayson plant and avoid new fossil fuel burning as much as we possibly can?
Yes, First of all, let me again reiterate my support for 100% renewable sources of energy by the year 2035. I also feel that we can, as a city, direct and continue to fund and incentivize distributed solar energy, new solar energy sources for our cities, from new developments, redevelopments, and for single family sources. Now, Grayson brings to mind something that I feel we're lacking in the city, and that is long-term plans. We should not be in a position where we need to make this decision quickly. This is an enormous decision, and I am so grateful for the additional 6 months we have to make sure that we are getting the best engines possible so that they can be converted to hydrogen in the future. We need to double and triple check that 5 engines is the correct number. Perhaps it's 3 engines. Perhaps we need to get more battery backup instead as we continue to build other clean energy sources in order to minimize any dependency on fossil fuel and an investment that might be wasted. I do want to tell you that the Grayson Power Plant is a tremendous resource we have in our city. So we need to work diligently and in a balanced manner to make sure that we have the cleanest energy possible. Thank you.
With 2 minutes left, I would like to talk trash. What are your thoughts about the integrated waste franchise system, trash hauling, and all of the complications within the city?
Yes, with our new trash hauling systems, we have seen that we've hit some bumps in the road. I've actually gone out and met with some of the new contractors about this situation. And I know that from city sources, staff, as well as them, that they have actually tried to take out all the kinks out of the new system. We need to continue to have them be more responsive to our residents, just as our own city trash facilities used to do. I believe that's missing. I also think that we need to, well, I think I'm going to just stop there and say that the next time we go out for contracts, we need to do more outreach. I believe that we didn't outreach enough. And when you do more outreach, you have more competitive responses.
Thank you. You have about a minute for your closing.
Thank you very much, Women's Civic League of Glendale. As you know, we chose Glendale to be our home, and we were blessed to raise 3 amazing daughters here. Among the most important things we want for our families is a safe place to call home, parks in our neighborhoods, safe and walkable streets, a vibrant economy with shops, arts, and entertainment, clean air and water. I want the same things you do. I am hopeful that I can apply my experience, and I'm not the only one saying this. Please go to my website, vote the number 4 Anita.com to see the amazing number of city leaders, elected officials, great organizations that are behind me and hoping that I make it to the Glendale City Council. You have 3 votes on the City Council. Please make one of those votes for Anita Quiñones Gabrielian. You won't be sorry. I'll be working for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
We're now going to bring in Vrej Agajanian.
Hello.
Hello, Vrej. Please turn on your camera.
Okay. Can you see me now? Hopefully.
Yes,
Great.
please go ahead and begin with your opening.
Hey, my name is Vrej Agajanian, a California certified engineer for 40 years. I worked as a professional engineer, serving as project engineer for the San Diego Naval Medical Center. I promoted STEM education as the former president of the Armenian Engineers and Scientists of America and supported youth charity projects as a former board member and current member of Kiwanis Club of Glendale for the past 17 years. I have dedicated my career to informing my community, president of 2 television stations operating in Glendale and broadcast across Southern California, one of which is dedicated to promotion of the arts. I have been the host of a nightly news program for over 2 decades, informing the public on the city of Glendale, as well as US and international news. I have been the only council member to keep an open business office to the public, providing free resources for the residents of the city of Glendale, even during the closing of City Hall at the peak of the pandemic. But general public knew where my studios are and they were walking here. Elected to Glendale City Council in 2017, I was trusted by my fellow council members to lead us in an extraordinary crisis as a mayor of Glendale during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. We led relief efforts by providing over 1,000 of our most vulnerable seniors with 300 monthly payments for 2 years, and provided 5,000 to keep over 1,000 struggling small businesses afloat. Thank you. This was my opening statement.
Our first question is, communities are under a great deal of pressure to plan for the increased housing needs while maintaining the quality of life. The state RENA allocation allocates housing needs for each community. Specifically, what would you propose the city do to meet its fair share of regional housing needs?
For one, I start the other way. In 2019, I delivered on my pledge to reach a fair deal between tenants and landlords by accomplishing rent stabilization in Glendale. We completed the first full year of monthly housing subsidy to program enrollment in order to improve quality housing options, and continued, I'm sorry, 1 second, and continued to acquire and develop new affordable housing, including the development of 3 projects in Broadway and Pioneer, providing 500 new units. We launched the continuation of Section 8 landlord incentive program to support landlords, which they're having a hard time in Glendale in the community, and we continued the low-income family employment and rental assistance program, which is LifeRap. But as you have mentioned, we have to be able to provide, to create a situation that we were told that we need 13,000 more affordable housing during the 8 coming years. That does not mean that we have to provide that many units. What it says, our zoning regulations should be such that if a contractor or developer comes forward to create housing in Glendale, not to impede their efforts. So that's why this is something that we have to consider for the next 8 years. But we don't have to do anything specific, because the way our zoning is at this time, we will meet that requirement.
With about 5 minutes remaining, Second question is, what actions should City Council take in order to increase clean energy production at our Grayson plant and avoid fossil fuel burning as much as possible?
Glendale is currently a leader in renewable energy. It's not that Grayson is, sometimes they use the name Grayson such that as if something terrible is happening. But we must always be looking to the future to not fall behind. With rising gas prices now more than ever, we must commit to the advanced research and development of novel alternative energy technologies such as waste to energy programs like plasma gasification, which liquefies waste in an enclosed chamber instead of burning and releasing toxins into the air. As the only professional engineer on the council, I bring the in-depth knowledge the city needs to choose the best practice for now and the best plan for a clean future.
Thank you. Let's talk trash. What are your thoughts on the various aspects of trash collection in the city?
Well, I don't know, do you mean that we gave it to commercial companies? Is that what you're
The
talking about?
franchise system, the franchise system increased bills 5 times on multifamily and commercial accounts. There's talk of making changes to the residential system. What are your thoughts?
Okay. On the residential system right now, as far as I'm concerned, we do not have any plan to change it. So if it's 4 units or less units, they still, city will collect that. But as far as the prices, I agree that prices went through the roof. I have to acknowledge that. But the problem is the rules and regulation of the state has been changed. This change in prices was result of the regulation 1383, which came in and said everything should be separated. Before everything was going to Grayson, apparently these companies should take some somewhere else. And it became, I understand, I feel so bad that the price went through the roof. I was not one of the from originally when we were coming up. My plan was that not to have one trash collector for each zone because I was worried. But my plan did not go through, or my colleagues did not accept it, because always as a business person, I still running a businesses. As I said, I'm running 2 TV stations as a business. Competition is the mother of keeping the prices low. I had, my plan was to, in each zone, to divide it in 3 zones, and in each zone to have 2 trash collectors to compete with each other. Or if I don't like one, to go to the other one. I had business, I had the same problem before, that when you got stuck with one company, so obviously the price is gonna be higher than if you have some other companies to compete with this one.
Thank you. You have about a minute for your closing.
I just want to come up with just a few changes I brought to the city of Glendale, including, as I said, increasing affordable housing by 507 affordable housing. It did not happen anywhere. In 2 years, we're going to have that. Approximately a 40% increase from only 1262 affordable housing units built in the past 44 years. They built 1,262, average of 31 units per year. In 2019, we achieved my campaign promise of rent stabilization to keep Glendale residents in their home and in their city, and dedicated 15% of all large-scale building developments for affordable housing. That's why you don't see as many big developments now. As the only California certified professional engineer on the council, my objective remains increasing quality housing and resources for
Your time is up, so please finish your thought.
specializing our parks and recreation system, have more parks in the South Glendale, and advancing environmental sciences and clean alternative energy technologies. And thank you everyone for accepting me and giving me the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Vrej Agajanian, and I'm the sixth
We're
name
going to go ahead
on
and move on. Thank you, Vrej. Please turn off your camera. And we will bring in Isabel Valencia Tevanian. Isabella, please turn on your camera.
Hello.
Welcome.
Well, thank you.
We'll start your 10-minute time. Please begin with your opening.
Hi, my name is Isabel Valencia Tevanian, and I am different from what is up there. Without the same name recognition that the other top candidates, but I'm so proud to represent the blue collar workers, the workers that they are very was left out for many years. We can see the inequity that is in the city when you drive around north from North Glendale to the South Glendale. Now that I'm knocking doors, I am recollecting so many complaints, and I just realized that electoral, they want a change, and they are so happy that they're going to be represented by me, like regular workers, as you can find in the car wash, in the markets, in the hotels, restaurants, fast food. And I'm so proud. And I like I said, I am the work warrior. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question is, communities are under a great deal of pressure to plan for increased housing needs and meeting the RHNA numbers while maintaining quality of life. Specifically, what would you propose the city do to meet its fair share of regional housing needs?
It's very sad to see that for so many years, the housing issue has been put on the side. And now we see after the pandemic, we really find out what is our weaknesses as a city. And they are still debating what we're gonna do. It's so simple. You need to revise everything that is on the table, benefit most of the time the other part, the landlord parts, and then left out the tenant side. Like yesterday, I was in a meeting in the commissioner, and I find out in the page 20 that everybody can go because this is public documentation. You see from 2005 to 2020, how fast was the speeding of the rent in Glendale, and then how little and how bad it was the speeding of the salary of the minimum wage in Glendale. And we need to tackle these items in order for us to see the difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second question, what actions should City Council take in order to increase clean energy production at our Grayson plant and avoid new fossil fuel burning as much as possible?
Yes, I'm agree with that. We need to pay attention, but for me, we need to give more opportunity to the entrepreneur invite to the table, because when I see this discussion is always about get new and expensive items. Maybe they have a better ideas than us. It's a time for us to call the community, different backgrounds, different age of people, that they can come and provide what they know and what they think about it. It's not just for a group, part of a city group that they want to say it, how we need to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question, let's talk trash. The city recently implemented the franchise system, which increased costs significantly on multifamily and commercial properties. There are plans to make changes to the residential system. What are your thoughts on the trash collection in Glendale?
It's not a good time. It's a good idea. Like I said again, it's a good idea. We need to go there, but we were waiting for so long. And then now with the economy situation that we have, the inflation, and we want to do all these changes, I don't think so is the right time, because it need to be a very big change. And big change not is always a smart change, especially now. Like I said, even though now the rent prices has been start to be hitting because of those prices that the city is applying to the apartment buildings. In advance, they already receive $100, $200 a month increase in the rent. And that is that I cannot say excuse, but the owners, they need to find out how to management these increases that affecting their building, not just pass it over to the tenants. Thank you.
Thank you. We have about 5 minutes left. Would you like a couple more questions, or would you like to take the time for your closing?
I don't know. 5 minutes, I don't know how fast it's going, but like I said, I would like to speak a little bit more about my plans. Like I said, I represent the 65% of the people that they have not been heard for so long. And then even though I was helping to those previously council members to get the seat, but through the years, I don't see results. And even though the pandemic, we didn't have this pandemic since 1968, but this pandemic, it was a life lesson for everybody. And then we need to please bring all together to the table and then tackle what is urgent. And what is urgent is the housing, the prices, because we used to work, and then the first 2 weeks it was for everything, and the part of the week that you work at month, the month have 4 weeks. So we as workers, we receive every week a paycheck. So one of those, and half of the second one, maybe it was for the bills and the expenses of the rent. Right now is almost 65% of the income of a person goes to the rent and partial of the bills. So nobody can live with this idea that we going outside every single day, like very good workers at the same place and exercise our job in the places. And then what do we receive is only just to, okay, I need to pay my rent, I need to pay my bills, and nothing else. I have no savings at all. And then I cannot eat what I want. I have to eat what I can afford. It's very sad. And this situation is bringing a lot of people into depression, emotional stress, and then that's why we have so many people with mental health issues. And we need really to focus in that way, because we don't need a community that they are sick. Thank you.
Thank you. You've been very efficient with your time. Do you have any other thoughts?
No, thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much for the Women Civic League to perform this this forum, because me as a candidate, a very low budget campaign, and I have not the previous the opportunity to go up there and talk to in the media. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. I'll ask you to turn off your camera and we will bring in Jordan Henry. Welcome, Mr. Henry.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well.
Great.
We're going to start your 10 minutes. Please begin with your opening.
Great. Thank you so much to the Women's Civic League for having me today. My name is Jordan Henry. I'm running for City Council because I care deeply about community safety, government transparency, and public parks, feasible sustainability as the city adds housing and other development. I hold a master's degree in landscape architecture from Cal Poly Pomona, and I currently work for Los Angeles City Department of Public Works, where I plan, check, and permit any landscape and irrigation improvement within the public right-of-way of Los Angeles. I've lived in Glendale for just over a year, but I moved here from Highland Park, where I lived for 6. My wife and I were always shopping and eating in Glendale, and I've been paying attention to Glendale politics and issues for several years. We chose to move here because of all the cities in the LA area. We felt that Glendale is the most ideal to raise a family. I believe that safe streets and neighborhoods are the cornerstone to maintaining a high quality of life that we already enjoy in Glendale. As one of the safest cities of its size in the nation, Glendale police have my respect, and I'll support them on council just as they support and protect all of us. I'm proud to say that the Glendale Police Association has endorsed my campaign, and I am the only non-incumbent to have received that endorsement from Glendale Police. I've also received endorsements from members of the Glendale Coalition for Better Government. We must protect the single-family residential neighborhoods that we cherish here in Glendale by fighting State Senate Bills 9 and 10, which did become law in January of 2022. Residential zoning should be a strictly local issue. These bills, Senate Bills 9 and 10, they're going to rapidly urbanize single-family neighborhoods with minimal to no off-street parking required. More and more cars are going to be parked in front of your homes, mine too, and congestion and traffic in the city of Glendale will intensify. Urbanizing residential areas creates major health and safety issues that must be addressed. Imagine a few years from now when our streets are even more gridlocked. Emergency response times are going to be longer with every overdeveloped parcel. We cannot allow Glendale to become overbuilt without first addressing traffic today. Having earned my master's in landscape architecture, I know that the best community planning is led by the community itself. And on council, I'll listen to Glendale residents and collaborate with each neighborhood to accomplish their goals. I'll address your concerns from protecting historic districts to addressing speeding in Glendale. I'll also prioritize the interests of other neighborhoods like South Glendale, where we need more parks. Please vote for me on June 7th, and let's polish the Jewel City together. Thank you.
Our first question: communities are under a great deal of pressure to plan for increased housing needs, meeting the RHNA numbers while maintaining their quality of life. Specifically, what would you propose the city do to meet its fair share of regional housing needs?
Great question. The state has set pretty high standards for housing development. Glendale, from my understanding, has done a pretty good job of actually accomplishing those up until this point. Those are going to increase, so we need to be very careful about as to how and where we do develop. The number one issue that we face in Glendale with development is traffic, and it's been over 40 years since Glendale has conducted a comprehensive traffic study. And I'm talking about the entire city, not just areas where development is occurring. The entire city needs to do that immediately. I believe there was one in the works prior to COVID, but since then they put it on halt because traffic was down during COVID, yet development has not stopped. So we are in even more need for a traffic study here. That to me is by far the most important aspect to focus on. People are going to keep driving. Most people who work in Glendale don't even live in Glendale. So we need to make sure that the people driving into the city, there's capacity for this influx of cars. And I understand that the city would like to move to, and the state would like to move to a more public transit focused basis of transportation in the city. However, that is something that they cannot necessarily control. I don't know how many people will actually end up taking the bus, let's say, or the BRT, which is, proposed to have its own dedicated lane on Glen Oaks from Brand westward. So we need to, and I oppose the dedicated lane there because traffic is clearly an issue. We should not be impeding traffic, the ease of flow, especially with all this development. So as I said in my first statement, SB 9 and 10 is going to rapidly change our city. I'd like to join with other communities in the Southern California area. So Whittier, Redondo Beach, Carson, Torrance have all joined together to challenge the state. And I would do the same thing with SB 9.
With about 3.5 minutes left, what action should the City Council take in order to increase clean energy production at our Grayson plant and avoid burning new fossil fuels as much as possible?
Great question. So the Grayson plant, this is the second proposal currently in front of City Council. The Grayson power plant, the second proposal is much more efficient and progressive than the first. Right now on the table is a massive Tesla Megapack, and that's a utility-sized battery, which is great, but still it's being ran off of fossil fuels and charged by fossil fuels. Also, there are 5 highly efficient natural gas generators proposed. Now, those generators are immediately able to be switched over to 25% hydrogen capacity immediately, and then by 2035, according to the EIR, that can be up to 100% hydrogen. We have it as the city is developing, related to our first question, and electrifying. More people drive electric cars, and the city is pushing for electrification of appliances. The demand for our grid is exponentially going up. We need to address that demand immediately by supporting Grayson. Now, we're moving towards renewables. That cannot happen at the expense of poor, vulnerable, older residents of Glendale who are not going to be able to afford the increased utility rates that are going to come if we do not expand Grayson currently. I have a master's in landscape architecture. I care a lot about renewable energy. However, I care also about quality of life and assuring that we assure health and safety of all residents in Glendale. If we don't move forward with this, the costs are going to go way up, and the risks are also going to go way up. So I support Grayson.
Okay.
Repowering
We have
project.
about 1.5 minutes left. Would you like the third question, or would you like to give your closing?
Third question.
Let's talk trash. What are your thoughts on the various aspects of waste collection in the city, given the franchise system for commercial and multifamily that increased costs and changes that are coming for residential?
So yeah, for commercial, the city has moved to a privatized system of trash hauling, and that's for multi-unit apartment buildings as well. I have heard and read that the increases in costs have gone up 300 to 500%. And from my understanding, there are only 4 companies within the entire city who have been awarded the opportunity to haul trash in Glendale, 1 per district in 4 districts. That has essentially gotten rid of all competition or the ability to negotiate with landlords. This is going to affect rent controlled areas, buildings that were built prior to 95, if they are under rent control, which are largely mom and pop owned landlords. So those costs cannot be passed on to those tenants. However, the cost will be passed on to businesses and market rate housing. So landlords with older buildings are going to suffer. Tenants in newer buildings are going to suffer. Businesses are going to suffer with
Your
those
time is
costs.
up. Please go ahead.
And we need
finish
to
your
open
thought.
up competition in those areas. So thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. If you could turn off your camera, we will go ahead and bring in Karen Kwok, our next candidate.
Will do. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Welcome. Karen Kwok, you have 10 minutes to begin with your opening.
Hi, I'm Karen Kwok. I'm running for Glendale City Council. I live in a one-bedroom apartment in South Glendale where I run a small business and tutor students. I should also warn you that I have 2 cats who have been known to jump on my desk during Zoom meetings, so that's fair warning. Yeah, during the pandemic, we've seen how important tenant-landlord issues are to the entire city, especially here in Glendale, where 67% of residents are renters. Last year, I worked with community groups and with the City Council to create the new Tenant Landlord Committee so we can come together to discuss problems and find common sense solutions. I have big dreams for our city and specific ideas on how to make them real. A new model of affordable housing and the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act, or TOPA, to allow renters to buy the building they live in and control their own housing. And please note, I'm not talking about just more affordable housing, I'm talking about a different kind of affordable housing. Right to counsel and anti-harassment laws for fair and safe housing, public banking to save money for the city and to serve our people, council districts so that areas like South Glendale are represented in City Hall consistently, and that's regardless of which individuals are actually serving on the council, because the individuals will change, an ethics commission to keep our politicians honest, healthy trees and clean water for everyone that's free of microplastics and PFAS. At a time when it's easy for people to live in bubbles where everyone thinks the same way, I encourage different voices to talk to each other and work for positive change. A vote for me is a vote for change at kwokforchange.com. And that's my opening message.
Thank you.
I'd like to hear any questions.
Our first question is, communities are under a great deal of pressure to plan for increased housing needs while meeting the RHNA numbers and maintaining quality of life. Specifically, what would you propose the city do to meet its fair share of regional housing needs?
You know, there is a stat that tenant activists often cite, which is that there are about 31 vacant houses in this country for every homeless person. So the housing crisis is not actually caused by a shortage of structures to put people in. That it's caused more by the pricing problem. You know, that people are becoming homeless because houses are not priced for human habitability. So I'm well aware that there's a lot of discussion around the RHNA numbers, whether they're correct and how much development we need. But my focus is actually on making better use of the buildings we already have. That, again, my plan for TOPA actually calls for tenants to buy the building they're already living in, because buying older buildings is actually more affordable, because new construction is a lot more expensive. Housing, that's actually a way to save money for both the city and for tenants. And in terms of development, yes, I'm well aware that most of the development occurs in South Glendale. And that's one of the reasons why I would very much like South Glendale to have a voice, you know, in exactly how much development occurs and where it's located.
Thank you. What actions should City Council take in order to increase clean energy production at our Grayson plant and avoid new fossil fuel burning as much as possible?
Oh, I've been part of the clean energy fight for years. I was part of the original steering committee of the Glendale Environmental Coalition. I am on record as far back as 2017, calling for the city to maximize solar energy before we resort to a minimal level of natural gas. Now, I'm well aware that clean energy technologies are still under development, and sometimes the technology does not mature as quickly as we would like. For example, I've been looking forward to, oh, by the way, I don't drive. I do not have a car. Because, for example, I've been promised, a hydrogen fuel cell car, for about 20 years now, that, with a car with absolutely clean emissions. And that, unfortunately, is still not yet a reality, because we're working on it, we're working on it, but it's not developing as quickly as we would like. So although my dream is to have the entire city powered by solar energy, I'm well aware of the logistical and technical difficulties that might slow down our road to get there. That is ultimately my goal there, but I will try to do my best to take the most pragmatic steps to get there. I've talked to a wide range of people along the ideological spectrum. They actually call me both a philosopher and a pragmatist. So this is actually one way to come together. My dream is for us to have 100% clean energy, but I'm very practical about what is realistic right now in order to make it happen one step at a time.
Thank you. With about 5 minutes left, let's talk trash. What are your thoughts on the various aspects of waste collection in the city, factoring in the franchise system that was implemented for commercial and multifamily, and the requirements that are coming for residential?
Oh, I've been hearing a lot of complaints about trash, that no one is happy with the recent laws. I've been explaining to people very patiently that the city is actually simply trying to comply with the state law. And this is going to be implemented over a period of 2 years. We have a lot of time to learn about the new rules and to adjust. But several complaints I've heard, actually, the idea behind it is a fine one, to separate our organics, and that ultimate purpose is to reduce the amount of methane, in our landfills, which will ultimately be a public benefit to all of us. But the problem people are counting in the here and now is that the trash costs have gone up. Another complaint I've heard is that there is more frequent garbage collection, because the organic wastes are now collected on a separate day from the rest of the garbage. So they have garbage trucks rolling through their neighborhoods very noisily, more than one day a week. Honestly, it's the best we can do right now is to educate the public on why this is happening and how. And I've also heard from both landlords and tenants, that the huge increase in the trash collection fees is causing them to increase rents. But I'm also going to point out that the trash collection fees might go up by $33, per renter, but the landlord uses it as a reason to increase rents by $100 or $200. That it's not necessarily a one-to-one translation that you need to increase rent simply because costs go up. Because as a small businesswoman and as a daughter of a small businessman, that it's not necessarily true that you pass on your own cost to the customer. That it's always a fine balance. You assess all of your revenues and all of your costs, and you make the best decision possible.
Thank you. You have about 3.5 minutes left. Would you like to take that for your closing, or would you like another question?
It sounds like we have enough room for another question, if you would like to ask one.
Assuming SB 9 remains law, what might Glendale do to make the requirements of SB 9 more acceptable to the community as a whole and residents of single-family neighborhoods?
Honestly, you might be surprised to hear this, but there were many tenant groups who came out against SB 9 and SB 10, because the idea behind those two state laws was to increase the supply of affordable housing. But I've been watching council meetings long enough to tell you that whenever people try to introduce new and different kinds of development into single family neighborhoods, there is vociferous opposition to it. And the way that tenant groups think that SB 9 and SB 10 will actually work is that developers will buy up properties in poor neighborhoods and accelerate the gentrification there, because those are the neighborhoods where there is less opposition, to developing new and different kinds of buildings in single family neighborhoods. So all I can say is I also have been watching politics long enough to know that people might have fine intentions, but that isn't necessarily the reality that's created. And we will probably need to wait and see how it's going to play out, over the next 5 or 10 years, because it does in fact take that long to see how laws actually play out in the real world. But I'm willing to keep an open mind and be flexible and to see how it works out and to try to balance those needs of affordable housing with people trying to have a say in what their neighborhoods will look like in the present day and in the future.
Thank you. You have about a little less than 2 minutes for your closing.
Okay, terrific. I probably won't even need 2 minutes. Okay, so when I'm a voter and I'm looking at candidates, that I ask myself, what does this candidate stand for? That as I've talked a lot about housing issues, you can probably tell that I'm very concerned about housing. And the people who know these issues best are the ones who live them every day. That as a renter, that I'm closest to these issues and I've been fighting them for many years. And so I would like you to think of me as the housing candidate. I'm also the candidate for change. I have a lot of new ideas. I have fresh perspectives on old ideas. And I also know my way around City Hall because I have already been effective in helping shape legislation, particularly around housing. So if you want a voice that's strong on housing and a voice that's strong on change, please consider me as you vote. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could go ahead and turn your camera off, we will bring in our next candidate, Ara Najarian. Welcome, Ara. You have minutes to begin with your opening.
Thank you. But before I begin, I just would like to warn everyone that I'm currently multitasking on a Metro board meeting in which a very important vote for the city of Glendale is going to be held. I may have to be drawn away, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Good morning, everyone. Actually, it's good afternoon. Glendale is a premier city and one of the best cities in all of California. My name is Ara Najarian, and I've lived in Glendale for over 40 years. I raised my family here. I went to Occidental College, as did my alumni friend Grant, USC Law School. I worked in Washington, D.C. for our Glendale congressman. I've worked in the Glendale District Attorney's Office. I started my own law firm on Brand Boulevard, and I've been a practicing attorney since 1988. I was elected to the Glendale Board of Trustees of Glendale College, and I've served as a judge pro tem for the Glendale courts. I was elected to the city council in 2005, and I've served 4 terms as mayor. I represent Glendale and other cities on the LA Metro Board. I'm currently chairman of the LA MetroLink organization. I also am on the Burbank Airport Commission representing Glendale. I love Glendale, and that's why I have committed so much of my time, so many years, helping keeping the city on the right course. I'm a consensus builder, but I only vote for what is right for the city of Glendale and the residents. One of my highest priorities is public safety, and I truly believe it is the cornerstone of our quality of life. And because of that, I am endorsed by the Glendale Police Department and Glendale Fire Department, and not because of promises I've made, but because of the actions I've done over the last several years. Bringing new faces on council can be exciting, but you need someone with the experience to help continue to guide the city in the right course. And I think my record speaks for itself. Elect Ara for city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question is, communities are under a great deal of pressure to plan for increased housing needs, meeting the RHNA numbers while maintaining their quality of life. Specifically, what would you propose the city do to meet its fair share of the regional housing needs?
Thank you. I think the regional housing numbers are very unfair. They are imposed upon our city and others by the state of California. They have taken away totally the local control of deciding how many more units we want to bring into Glendale. That being said, it's my goal to preserve our neighborhoods and keep them as quiet and peaceful as possible. I'm not in favor of upzoning in our existing single-family neighborhoods. Any growth that has to be placed needs to be done downtown, where we have the infrastructure, the transit, the jobs, the restaurants. And that is really the only way that the city of Glendale can accommodate that growth without creeping into our existing neighborhoods.
Thank you. What actions should City Council take in order to increase clean energy production at our Grayson plant and avoid new fossil fuel burning as much as possible?
A very good question. For those who've been following this issue, it's been developing over the past 3 or 4 years. One of our earlier decisions about 3 years ago was to place some gas-powered electrical generators at Grayson. It's later that we rethought that and realized that we could really cut that back significantly by using some locally generated photovoltaic. And we've taken that actually a step further. We paused the purchase of those generators and have given, let's say, a cooling off period on that, so we can find out if there's any additional renewable energy available through the LADWP, through our local sources, through our rooftops, through commercial solar, and any other manner. The problem is we are constrained with our transmission lines, and we just can't buy it where it's available and ship it in. It's a bottleneck of that electricity, so we have to look locally for our generation.
Thank you. We have about 5 minutes left. So let's talk trash. With
Okay.
the franchise system for commercial and commercial and multifamily, and changes coming in for residential, what are your thoughts on the various aspects of waste collection in the city?
Well, there's a lot to be said about waste. Let's start with where we put it. Currently, Glendale has had the luxury of operating its own landfill, the Shoal Canyon landfill. And that's been going for approximately, it's about approximately 40 years, over 40 years. That gave Glendale a very cheap and close location to take our trash. And I think we were a little bit spoiled for that. Recently, the state of California has imposed restrictions on how we can collect trash and how we need to sort our trash. One of those reflects the desire to keep organics out of the typical waste stream. As a result, Glendale took the first step last year to franchise out our commercial waste hauling to private companies, to 4 private companies, each one given a district, where they would collect the commercial trash, sort it, and place it in the appropriate landfills or recycle as necessary. What we saw was an increase in rates. The largest component of those rates are the new processing that the city of Glendale has been obligated to perform by the state of California and its new waste recycling rules. I am not happy about that. It's something that we were obligated to do. Our previous system was really a hodgepodge with over 100 different waste haulers crisscrossing the city from one account to another, tearing up our roads, polluting our air, causing traffic issues. We have tried to streamline that. I am afraid, though, in the event that the Shoal Canyon does close, the landfill does close, we are going to see even higher rates for trash, because that trash is now going to have to be taken to further away locations, in some instances taken by railway to other locations, and that's going to increase the pricing. The best thing we can do is do as much as we can to reduce our waste stream so that we can keep our prices down due to a lower volume for the entire city.
Thank you. You have about 2 minutes left for your closing.
Thank you. I appreciate the Women's Civic League for holding this forum. This is really a critical election. We have a lot of new candidates out there who are untested, who have not held elected office before, who do not understand local government and the processes which a city council member has to go through. Experience is the most important factor that you need to judge and hold your candidate to. And I have that experience. As mayor for 4 years, I have led the city on a good path. And if you're happy with the city of Glendale now, I can assure you that I've had a hand in keeping it the jewel city that it is. We're a safe city. We're not inundated with homeless like other cities are. We've got great streets, great shopping, great residential neighborhoods. And a vote for Aura is a vote to keep us on that track. There are others who want to take a strong turn and perhaps a U-turn. I am not one of those. I'm for keeping the direction that we're going, working with council members, and making Glendale an even better city than it is today.
Thank you very much. if you would go ahead and turn your camera off, we will go ahead and bring in Ellen Asatre into the meeting.
Thank you very much and goodbye.
Welcome, Ellen Asatre. We'll begin your 10 minutes and you can start with your opening.
Thank you to the Women's Civic League of Glendale for organizing and all of you for joining. I've had the honor of calling Glendale my home since I was 10 and have invested a majority of my life in Glendale and its challenges. I'm running because, like all of you, I love Glendale and I know that I can bring the courageous and empathetic leadership our residents and small businesses deserve that will make Glendale a model city. While there's a lot that's great, I believe we need a culture change at City Hall. I fought for and want our City Hall to be proactive versus reactive, where we implement policies based on a vision of what we want our city to look like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, while also addressing the issues impacting our residents, businesses, and children today, and bringing out the best in our city staff. If the pandemic taught us anything, it is how this checkbox, one-size-fits-all communication our government agencies use leave out our diverse communities and fail to provide access to services for those that don't know how to navigate the system. If we want to build a better Glendale, we need to actually invest in smart development that incorporates green space, affordable housing, sustainability, the arts, and makes our streets and neighborhoods walkable and safe. I have a deep passion for the city my family and I have called home for the last 30 years, and the sincere desire and commitment to leaving it better for future generations than we found it. I will bring to the council my professional background in policy, budgets, communication, and my proven track record of helping everyday people succeed. For the last 2 decades, I've had taken immense pride in bringing diverse groups together to find common solutions. For me, there is no us versus them, and our City Hall is the house of the people. I will bring the same determined spirit that I've had as a community organizer, as an activist, and a small business owner to tackle our most challenging problems. With your support, I can get us there.
Thank you. Our first question is, communities are under a great deal of pressure to plan for the increased housing RHNA needs while maintaining the quality of life. Specifically, what would you propose the city do to meet its fair share of regional housing needs?
I think we actually need to invest in affordable housing. I think all future development needs to incorporate affordable housing. COVID has forever changed how people do business. We have a lot of folks working remotely at this point. I'd like for us to do an assessment of our commercial buildings on brand as well, for us to see if there's vacancies and enough vacancies for us to be able to convert those to residential units and particularly affordable housing units.
Thank you. Our next question is, what actions should City Council take in order to increase clean energy production at our Grayson plant and avoid new fossil fuel burning as much as possible?
I'm never going to pretend to be an expert in areas that I'm not, and that the Grayson power plant is a perfect example. I was actually one of the biggest advocates against Grayson, calling for clean energy. It's not just environmentally unfriendly, it is fiscally responsible for us to invest $260 million when we have a state mandate to go clean energy by 2045. I think it is how we direct staff in the approach that we take. I believe that we should just be telling staff to come back with clean energy options only.
Thank you. Let's talk trash. With the recent changes for the franchise system for commercial and multifamily, and the changes that are coming by state law for residential, what are your thoughts on waste collection in Glendale?
I think we need to do a better job at going zero waste. And I think that starts as City Hall being a model for zero waste. I've been hearing from residents and small business owners how, they woke up one morning and their bills were nowhere where they used to be and that they can no longer afford it. I think we need to take a look at the contracts that were signed. I understand this, the contracts that were signed were for the next 7-8 years. And if there is a clause for us to get out and renegotiate, I would be open to doing that.
We have about 5 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll go with another question.
Sure.
Assuming SB 9 remains the law, what might Glendale do to make the requirements of SB 9 more acceptable to the community as a whole, especially residents of single-family neighborhoods?
SB 9 is a perfect example of laws that have come down from the states that are disastrous for cities like Glendale. My approach would be to take it neighborhood by neighborhood for us to make sure that we're preserving the beauty of our neighborhoods and only building out in areas which are not going to negatively impact our single family homes. While also investing in affordable housing.
Thank you. We'll go on to another question. Many of Glendale's seniors living in apartments now on fixed income live in fear of the next rent increase. What more could the city do to improve their chances of staying housed?
Again, this leads me back to affordable housing and the need for us to build more. I think we also need to do proper community outreach for incentive programs that are available. That's one of the big things that I've been fighting over the last 20 years in our city for. We have very diverse communities, including our senior population, that within it has diverse communities. The perfect example I want to bring to that was during COVID, there was a tweet that was put out by the city noting the senior meals and housing program that came out during COVID. And my response to city staff on that was, for the most part, grandma is not on Twitter. We have to go where our communities are and target the demographic that is actually most impacted by those issues. We have a responsibility to those that don't speak English for us to do proper outreach to them and be where those different communities are.
Thank you. You've been very efficient with your answers, so we'll try for one more. What are your views of the city's role in addressing climate change?
So I've always been very big on environmental issues. I want us to bring back the Shoal Canyon power plant. I hope to reverse that decision and for us to start the process of cleaning out that landfill. I think it's important for us to invest in solar. There is a misconception about the fact that solar is more expensive and it would cost a lot more for our residents. I think we owe it to the residents in that area to start that process, to reverse the Shoal Canyon decision, and for us to go clean energy on the Grayson power plant.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes for your closing.
Thank you. Thank you again for this opportunity. If you feel as I do that we deserve better, then join me in charting a new course for the city we love. I know that I can bring my many years of experience, the bold yet empathetic leadership to serve our residents and small businesses. Now more than ever, we need leaders who actually go to bat for their constituents. In over 2 decades of service to Glendale, I've expanded green space and access to programs for low-income and marginalized communities. As chair of the Glendale Parks and Recreations Commission, established the Glendale Domestic Violence Task Force, founded internship programs for our youth, and helped residents and small businesses cut through the bureaucratic red tape. I know how to get things done. Our campaign has earned the support of a broad list of organizations and officials, including the Glendale Firefighters Association, the National Women's Political Caucus, the Sierra Club, California Senator Anthony Portantino, LA County Board Supervisor Catherine Barger. I'm also the only woman and non-incumbent to earn the endorsement of the Planned Parenthood. And while I'm honored for all these endorsements, what I hope to earn is yours. This election can be one of many firsts for Glendale. If I'm elected, I would be the first immigrant woman at age 39, the youngest woman, the first Armenian American woman, and only the 5th woman in the history of our city to serve on the city council. In the year 2022, we shouldn't have so many firsts. I hope my campaign also inspires other young women to run and become civically engaged. And I look forward to continuing to do my part to help pave the way. I hope you'll join me. It's going to take all of us. Together, we'll make Glendale a model city to live, work, and play in. I hope to earn your trust and your vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you could turn your camera off, go ahead and bring in our final candidate, Dan Brotman. Welcome, Dan Brotman.
Hello.
We'll start your 10-minute time with your opening statement.
Okay, so thank you to all of you for organizing this and for everybody that's listening. My name is Dan Brotman. I came to Glendale in 2015. Before that, as many of you know, I had a long career in economics and finance, first at the Federal Reserve and then at Cisco Systems. I spent most of my 16 years at Cisco living overseas. I retired from Cisco, returned to the US, and started a second career as an adjunct professor of economics at Glendale College. That's what brought me to Glendale. What brought me to council was a campaign to stop Glendale Water and Power from building a new gas plant in the middle of the city. It's a long story, but it ended up becoming a movement. It spawned the Glendale Environmental Coalition, got the city to shift decisively to clean energy, and it led me to run for the seat that I now hold. My background is as an economist, a finance professional, college professor, community organizer, and now a policymaker. I come out of living in many different cities and countries, so I have a broad perspective on the issues that we face. I come out of a grassroots campaign to get the city to be more forward-looking and innovative, so I know how to build coalitions and drive change. On council, I've proven to be somebody who challenges business as usual approaches, gets second and third opinions, and actively draws on experts in the community. I've also demonstrated that I'm not just about the big policy ideas, but also about solving everyday quality of life problems, whether it's cut through traffic, sidewalk trash, or something as simple as getting a permit, which is, as we know, not that simple. Anyone that has ever reached out to me knows that I always respond promptly and substantively, not just with a few nice sounding words. I plan to continue to be a council member who pushes for creative solutions to long-term problems while staying close to the concerns of everyday residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question is, communities are under a great deal of pressure to plan for the increased housing needs and RHNA numbers while maintaining their quality of life. Specifically, what would you propose the city do to meet its fair share of regional housing needs?
Okay, well, it's a complicated question. You know, the state is really bearing down on us, and we have some huge RHNA numbers to meet, 14,500 units over the next 8 years. Whether we want to or not, we need to accommodate significant number of new housing units. It's not a matter of if, but how. I do think we can do it without destroying what brought many of us to Glendale, which is clean environment, safe city, friendly community, a refuge from many of the problems in LA. The question is how. I think we will be adding density mainly in our downtown, in our Tropico area, and along our commercial corridors such as San Fernando Road. Some will be from conversion of commercial space where vacancies are very high. But the key is we're going to need to do it with quality design, which is why I've focused so much on strengthening the design review board. I really do think the negative reaction to the development on Central was bad design, not density itself. So we need quality design. We need buildings that we can admire for the next 50 years. We also need to make sure we put in the infrastructure to support the density, water and power, streets, sewers, parks, and this requires long-term planning. And we need to make it easier and safer to walk and bike so people can get around without always having to jump in a car. And we need better transit. And we need to make it possible for people who work in Glendale to live in Glendale. Otherwise, we're going to just choke on traffic. I'm a big supporter of the neighborhoods. I've been on the Glendale Historical Society. I've been a member, I'm sorry, for many, many years. I support historic preservation. So we need to keep a balance there and make sure we're preserving the neighborhoods while accommodating the density that's inevitable.
Thank you. With about 5.5 minutes, what actions should City Council take in order to increase clean energy production at our Grayson plant and avoid new fossil fuel burning as much as possible?
Okay, well, that's my signature issue. When Glendale Water and Power originally proposed a 260 megawatt gas plant to replace the aging system that they have, I knew it was excessive. I knew it was unnecessary. I knew we could do a lot more with clean energy. I fought it. Glendale Water and Power swore up and down that there was no way they could reduce the size of the plant and keep the lights on. At the time, the council at the time decided to push back, and lo and behold, Glendale Water and Power found a way that they could cut the fossil fuel component 60% and replace it with clean energy. They're now proposing a scaled down project, but I know they can do more. They can do more with solar and storage on commercial buildings. They could do more with batteries. They could do more with energy efficiency, with demand management, and better resource sharing with LA Water and Power. And I'm going to keep pushing on GWP to do better. This is a timing issue. If we had 10 years to figure this out, there wouldn't be a problem. There are a lot of new technologies coming, but we don't have that kind of time because the old units have to come offline. How do we get through this time period? Can we entirely do it without some backup fossil fuel generation? I hope so, but I can't say for sure. And I'm not going to be absolutist about it. We will do what we need to do to keep the lights on in Glendale. The key really to me is a commitment to get to 100% clean energy by 2035, with the majority of that happening by 2030. That's something I've consistently pushed for and I will continue to push for.
Thank you. With about 3.5 minutes left, let's talk trash. The franchise system for commercial and multifamily was implemented. There are changes through state laws for the residential. What are your thoughts on trash collection in Glendale?
Okay, well, first on this franchise system, you know, the decision to outsource commercial and multifamily did come before my time. I was not part of the debates about whether we should try to do it in-house or outsource it, or whether we should have a small number of competing haulers versus an exclusive one for each zone. But I can't fault the decision. And council at the time all 5 of us voted to support it ultimately. I really don't think there were many good options, given that the mandates we have for organics and for waste diversion. You know, in the old days, trash was easy. You just dig a hole and throw it in. It's not like that anymore. So we're going to need to do new things, and that's going to cost money. Remember that the city hasn't increased trash rates for over 10 years. And we've also enjoyed the advantages of a local landfill, which will soon be closing. So in a sense, we've been given a subsidy. All of us have gotten a subsidy. We have not faced the true cost of the waste we produce. Now, I know it's really hard on mom and pop businesses and property owners, and I get it. But I'll make 2 points. One is we need to enforce service levels from our haulers. Things like street side dumping, they're supposed to be picking that up. We need to hold their feet to the fire on that. I also want to see a centralized reporting of complaints so that we are able to keep track of whether they're doing the job or not. And we also need to change the mentality of our throwaway society. We're killing the environment with all the single-use disposable items we produce every day. And this council, at my urging, is working on policies to reduce and eliminate single-use plastics and require the use of reusable foodware at dine-in establishments. And we need to do more of that to reduce the waste stream because we're not going to be able to reduce the cost of managing it.
Thank you. You have about a minute for your closing.
Okay. Well, I would say, you know, these things are very frustrating for me when I'm trying to answer complex questions in 1 minute. I am a policy wonk. I like to get into the details of things, and it's just hard to do it in this kind of time. So what I would say is, give me a call or an email. I always respond to emails. I'm known for that, and I respond with substance. And I will tell it like it is. I'm also known for that. I don't sugarcoat things. I'm very open. I would also say that you can look on my website. I give a lot of detail on the issues that I am concerned about: environment, transportation, housing, the arts, development in general, racial and ethnic and equity issues. It's all laid out in a lot of detail. That's the kind of person I am. I have experience. I deal with complexity, and I'm comfortable with that. I am the
Time
only.
is up if you could
Oh,
finish your thought.
Oh, I was just going to say I'm endorsed by both Anthony Portantino and Laura Freeman. I'm the only candidate that's been endorsed by our mayor, Artie Kasakian, and I have a lot of other community members supporting my campaign. You can look it all up on my website. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could ask you to turn off your camera.
Will do.
This concludes the candidate forum for Glendale City Council held by the Women's Civic League of Glendale. I do want to thank everyone in attendance for joining us. This video will be posted to the Women's Civic League's YouTube channel so that you can view it and share it with others. I do want to go ahead and let everybody know that the Women's Civic League of Glendale is looking to grow our membership, engage, continue with our mission for civic advancement within the city. And we hope that you found this forum useful and consider joining us on our other adventures. Thank you very much.